Kids, we were just referencing Michael Tomasky's great piece, You're in Denial If You Think Steve Israel is Wrong About GOP Racism. He joins us now. Good morning, Michael.
Hey there.
Hey there. I thought I was the only one that dived into those horrible, poisonous threads on the right-wing websites.
My Twitter feed was interesting, but it won't stop me.
It's funny. Who was it? It was some female reporter was interviewed, and she said, "I just started on Twitter. I had no idea how rude people are."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You might consider another line of work.
Yeah, right. But you're right. Not a month goes by without a GOP racial gaffe. Racist vitriol fills conservative websites' comment sections, and the party refuses to take on the issue. Of course, Steve Israel's right, and he is the DNC guy, or not DNC, but DCSSS, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, guy, and he simply on CNN. What did he say exactly? He just said to a significant extent
there are elements.
Right.
It was a double-couched statement, which is why I thought it wasn't particularly controversial.
Right.
There are elements of the GOP base that are animated by racism. So he didn't say, the GOP base is a bunch of racists.
Right.
Which is a statement that I wouldn't have endorsed.
Right.
Actually.
Right.
He said elements of the GOP base are animated by racism,
right.
which I think is incontrovertible. Chris Matthews thought was incontrovertible the other night when I was on his show, and I assume you probably think so too. But there are those who do disagree with us.
Well, I mean, or they just go to that hyperbole, right, Michael, and say, "Oh, you're saying they say all criticism of the president is based on race," and we're going, no, nobody is saying that. We're saying elements of the GOP base.
Yeah.
But anyway, you say, sometime back, whenever a big racial controversy erupted, I trained myself into the habit of reading about it on FoxNews.com just for the unbelievable comment threads. And you said, let's put it this way. If my friends and I went to a bar and started playing Let's Write the Racist FoxNews.com comment thread drinking game, our efforts couldn't begin to approach what I saw there.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was breathtaking, right?
Just amazing stuff. And, a lot of conservatives have written on Twitter and written, I guess, blog posts and stuff saying it's pretty lame to base things on anonymous comment threads. Sometimes, I can see that point. I mean, if I were plucking 4 or 5 or even 20 or 30 comments and trying to make it sound like those were representative, that would be unfair. But these are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments I've read over a period of years on a whole range of different stories, from things about Obama to the Trayvon Martin verdict to Whitney Houston's death.
Right.
And,
after which,
are these all? Do I know that all these people are registered Republicans? No, but these are conservative websites that conservatives visit: Fox News, Free Republic, other things like that.
Well, and first of all, you say Al's and company got wise after the Whitney Houston stories when they shut down the comment section on their website, right?
Right. So if they shut it down on stories having to do with race, I guess they recognized that it was a problem.
Well, exactly. But the other thing, I think the larger point you make, Michael, is you say beyond these, we have numerous instances of low-level and sometimes not so low-level Republican Party officials making racist jokes about Obama. We've got how many, and as you say, how many of these forwarded emails stories are we going to get, right?
I think that, do you think it's fair to say they've happened every couple of weeks, or at least every month?
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah, and you say that that not a fortnight goes by that some local GOPer doesn't show up in the news explaining he didn't mean any harm and sending an email to friends showing watermelons piled up on the White House lawn, saying he's sincerely sorry if it offended anybody. It's almost like the apology template, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
I mean.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I mean, that's a recurring thing. And I'm sure they think over on that side, oh, it's just a joke, don't be so uptight. But, it's not an appropriate joke. I don't care whether he's the president or, the head of a corporation or the head of a bank or, an athlete or whatever. It's not appropriate humor anymore.
Well, I mean, like we were all just born yesterday. Like we all don't know. We don't forward things to our friends unless we think it's really funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like to use that as an excuse. It almost does become I'm sorry if I offended any overly sensitive N-word lovers. What did I say? What?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So obviously you were saying when Steve Israel made his comments, you said, please, you have to be living a life of willed ignorance and denial to take issue with what Israel said. And I love that you said the FoxNews.com story about this, about Steve Israel's comments. If you scroll down, you'll see comments are currently closed for this article, which is kind of proving your point entirely.
Yeah. Look, the bigger and more important point is this. I believe that, excuse me, the Republican Party has had a racial issue, ever since it had Barry Goldwater and Nixon's Southern strategy, and it opposed civil rights. I don't know that anybody would really deny that. I guess there are people out there who do deny that, but it's certainly true to me, and I think to the vast majority of people. They've gotten 10% of the vote presidential elections ever since then. I guess Nixon and Ford probably got a little more than that, but they didn't hit 20.
Right.
But ever since Reagan, 8% of the presidential vote. Now, of course, with Obama, it was lower than that. It was 2 or 3 or 4%. You gonna ever do something about that, folks? I mean, are you ever going to try to do anything about that, other than say we're going to take our message of opportunity to Harlem and South Central and so on and so? Well, no, that's not going to work as long as you're doing these other things. Black people aren't stupid; they understand, for example, who this voter suppression thing is aimed at, and as long as you're doing stuff like that, you're going to stay in single digits.
Right.
Who's going to?
And by the way, it's
ahead,
not, as you say, it's not just comment threads. It's Paul Ryan using code, like inner city and this kind of culture that doesn't value work. I mean, it's so you're right that these are not. You can't just go. Oh, you can't just say it's some lunatics on comment threads, right?
Right, exactly. And, this is like, I want to see a Republican genuinely stand up and say, we have to change our ways. We have to change. We've been wrong. Rand Paul did a little bit of that in a kind of interesting way, last weekend with this talk about sentencing reform. I mean, he didn't really say anything specific that he would do. Right. But the broader point is it's not just a question of proposing new things. It's a question of making a public accounting for the old and some current things that clearly have been wrong.
Yeah. Well, as you write, the cowardice on the GOP side on this issue is universal and always has been. And so you say the only question we're left debating is when all this might change. You say, for starters, it will change when Barack Obama leaves office. All the Obama-related racial craziness will obviously end, but we shouldn't count on that for much, as you say, because, as you point out, racial controversies will still occur. Black celebrities will continue to die. Juries will keep letting George Zimmerman's off. So yeah, I mean in some ways it just exposed that more with the President Obama in the White House, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely does. But it'll soften a little, but I don't think all that much.
But then we can look forward to the misogyny that will be will be the Hillary Clinton administration. But you end on a happy clappy note, as I love. You do say still in all, some progress has been made in the Obama era. We crossed the barrier, obviously, of electing a black president. 2/3 of Americans admire the First Lady. Millions of young children are going to grow up thinking Barack Obama is what a president is supposed to look like. And so that's something, right?
Including my child. Remember the one who was screaming at the choo-choo train that one day?
Yes.
So she's going to grow up thinking, hey, so presidents are supposed to be black. I get it.
What's wrong with all these dollar bills? These guys don't look like what a president's supposed to look like.
Right. Who are these guys?
Exactly.